Welcome back to our series on Shotyajit Rai's captivating story Bonku Babu's Friend. In our previous video, we delved into the lively discussions at Shripati Babu's Adda where spaceships, space travel took center stage. Bonku Babu, with his curious mind, had spotted a strange light in the sky and informed Nidhu Babu about the same. However, when Bonku Babu arrived at Shripati Babu's Adda, he saw that Nidhu Babu had claimed this discovery as his own. Despite the ridicule and the roll of cruel laughter that filled the room, Bonku Babu's spirit remained unbroken. Let us continue our journey with Bonku Babu and uncover what happens next in the story. Bonku Babu was not carrying a torch or a lantern. We had stopped at a point when, after excess ridicule, when he left and when he decided to leave the Adda midway because tears sprang to his eyes, we see that Ram Kanai had warned him about ghosts and spooks. Bonku Babu did not pay much heed to all of that. While he left, he could hear the roll of laughter behind him. Bonku Babu was not carrying a torch or a lantern. There was no need for it. It was too cold for snakes to be out and about, and he knew his way very well. Normally, not many people took this route, but it meant a shortcut for him. So, Bonku Babu knew the way to his home quite well, and he had taken a shortcut on that particular day. He was not carrying a torch because he knew the way too well, and in the December cold, he was sure that no snakes would be out and about. In the last few minutes, he had become aware of something unusual. However, while he was returning, he suddenly became aware of something that was uncanny, that was unusual, that was not something that he normally had seen. At first, he could not put his finger to it. So, at first, he was unable to point out what was different. Somehow, things were different tonight. What was wrong? What was missing? Suddenly, he realized what it was. Now, generally on cold winter nights, one would hear the chirping of the crickets. But today, everything was silent. Everywhere there was a deafening silence. What was missing? Suddenly, he realized what it was. The crickets were silent. Not one was chirping. Today there was only an eerie silence, so it was uncannily silent. Everything around was unnaturally silent. What had happened to all the crickets? Were they all asleep? So these were the thoughts that kept on coming to his mind. So he was not sure what was happening. Something was very strange and unusual. Puzzled, so he was slightly confused. Bonku Babu walked another 20 yards. And then he suddenly saw the light. Then he suddenly spotted a ray of light. At first, he thought that a fire had broken out. His initial assumption was there must be a fire because the light was such. Bang! In the middle of Pocha Ghosh's bamboo grove. So suddenly he encounters a strange sight that in Pocha Ghosh's bamboo grove is a thicket, a group of plants together. In the clearing near a small pond, so there was a cleared area that where a pond was situated. Quite a large area was glowing pink, and everything was glowing pink. A dull light shone on every branch and every leaf. Down below, the ground behind the pond was lit by a much stronger pink light. But it was not a fire, for it was still. Generally, you would find that flames of fire would stir, would move, but everything was silent, everything was still, but there was a pink light that was coming in and it was getting stronger. Bonku Babu kept moving, so he could not stop. Now he was extremely curious. All at once, his ears began ringing. So suddenly, his ears began ringing because there was a strange sound that was coming. He felt as if someone was humming loudly. There was a constant droning sound that he could hear suddenly. A long, steady noise. There was no way he could stop it. So he did not have the power to stop it, but he could hear the constant ring of it, a constant monotonous droning noise. Bonku Babu broke out into goose pimples. Goose pimples are small bumps over the skin which one gets when one is scared or nervous. So he's referring to his goosebumps. But an irrepressible curiosity drove him further forward. Though he was scared, he was nervous, he was getting goosebumps, yet he could not stop himself. There was an irrepressible curiosity. So his curiosity was now uncontrollable. And he kept moving forward because he now wanted to find out what was happening. As he went past a cluster of bamboo stems, an object came into view. It looked like a giant glass bowl turned upside down, covering the pond completely. So he encounters a very strange view. He sees a glass bowl like structure which was upturned on the pond. It was through its translucent shade that a strong yet gentle pink light was shining out to turn the whole area radiant. It was a glass like structure, so the surface was translucent. Translucent means it was semi transparent, glass like. A better word for it is diaphanous, when it is semi transparent and the light was coming out from that structure and it made everything around it radiant. He took a few steps to get a better look. He still did not stop. Bonku Babu stepped forward to get a better look at this unusual structure, but suddenly felt as if an electric current had passed through his body. But as he tried to move forward, he could feel a jolt of current pass through his whole body. In the next instant, he was rendered completely immobile. So, in the very next moment, he was rendered means made. He was made completely immobile. He was frozen into inaction. He did not have the power to move anymore. His hands and feet were tied with an invisible rope, but he could feel as if there was an invisible rope that tied his hands and feet, and he could not move forward. There was no strength left in his body. He could neither move forward nor backward. So he was completely stuck in one place. He could neither move forward nor go backward. A few moments later, Bonku Babu, still fixed stiffly at the same spot, saw that the object had gradually stopped breathing. Look, breathing in is in single quotes. That is, as humans, as Bonku Babu, he could only understand its breathing. It felt that the glass bowl or the structure was breathing, but it stopped. The movement, whatever slight movement that resembled breathing, it had stopped. All at once, his ears ceased ringing and the humming stopped. So, the ringing in his ears, it stopped. The constant droning noise that he had heard earlier, it finally, it came to a stop, and the humming stopped. A second later, a voice spoke, shattering the silence. So, few seconds later, a strange voice started speaking, breaking the absolute silence of the night. It sounded human, but was extraordinarily thin. So the tone of the voice was extraordinarily thin, but Bonku Babu felt that it seemed similar to human. Milliping crook, it said loudly, and it seemed like a strange chant, and it said that loudly. Bonku Babu jumped a little. What did it mean? What language was this? And where was the speaker? So he could not spot anything. He could not see the person who was speaking. He could not understand the language in which the thing spoke. And he could not understand from where the voice came. The next words the voice spoke made his heart jump again. So, the next thing that he said, it also made his heart jump. So it was an unusual experience for him. And now the voice said, "Who are you? Who are you?" Why? Why? These were English words. So now this language Bongu Babu recognized. It was English. Was the question addressed to him? Bonku Babu swallowed. So he was nervous, he swallowed hard, and he answered, "I am Bonku Bihari Dotto, sir. Bonku Bihari Dotto," he replied. So he says he addresses this thing as sir, and he nervously blurts out his name. "Are you English? Are you English?" The voice went on. The voice asked whether he was English, whether he was a European, whether he understood English. He said that. "No, sir," Bonku Babu shouted back. "Bengali, sir, a Bengali, sir." So he said, "No, I am not an Englishman. I am a Bengali, Bonku Bihari Dotto." This was followed by a short pause. So the thing took a short pause, everything was quiet. Then the voice came back, speaking clearly in Bengali. "Namaskar," Bonku Babu heaved a sigh of relief and returning the greeting. So Bonku Babu finally was a little relieved to hear the familiar Bengali words, and he returned the greeting and said Namaskar. Suddenly realizing that the invisible bonds that were holding him tightly had disappeared. Suddenly he realized that whatever was holding him back, that bond was released and he could move freely again. He was free to run away, but he did not. Now his astounded eyes could see that a portion of the glass mound was sliding to one side, opening out like a door. So now his astounded eyes means his astonished eyes. He was too surprised. He saw that finally the upturned glass structure was opening, and it was sliding to one side and was opening like a door. Through that door emerged a head. First, a head emerged out of it, like a plain, smooth ball, and the head was nothing like a human head. It was plain and smooth, and it resembled a ball. And then the body of a weird creature. The creature was strange. The structure was nothing that Bonku Babu was familiar with. Its arms and legs were amazingly thin. It was remarkably thin. With the exception of its head, its whole body was covered by a shiny pink outfit. Instead of ears, it had tiny holes on each side of its head. On the face were two holes where there should have been a nose, and another gaping hole instead of a mouth. So there were only, his face was structured very differently. There was no sign of hair anywhere. Only there were certain holes that was resembling his eyes and his mouth. Its eyes were round and bright yellow. They appeared to be glowing in the dark. So this structure reveals, this creature, strange creature reveals itself. Now please mark this particular paragraph because you may get questions from here. It is the description of the creature. So for certain questions where you need to recall the details from the text, you may get such questions. So please make a note of this. The creature walked slowly towards Bonku Babu. So now the creature came forward and came slowly near Bonku Babu and stopped only a few feet away. Only a few feet away he stopped. Then it gave him a steady, unblinking stare, and now from there he kept staring at Bonku Babu. And he stared at him intently, unblinking stare, remember? Automatically, Bonku Babu found himself folding his hands. So, in a normal posture of greeting was to fold one's hands and say Namaskar. So, Bonku Babu, being of a nervous disposition, he instantly folded his hands. Having stared at him for nearly a minute, it spoke in the same voice that sounded more like a flute than anything else. Are you human? Yes, Bonku Babu answered. So, after staring at him for quite some time, the creature asked him whether he was human. And Bonku Babu answered, yes. Is this earth? Yes. So Bonku Babu confirmed his doubts. He asked whether this was earth, and Bonku Babu said yes. Ah, I thought as much. My instruments are not working properly. I was supposed to go to Pluto. I wasn't sure where I had landed. So I spoke to you first in the language that they use on Pluto. So he gives a strange explanation. He says that he was supposed to go to Pluto, but by mistake, since his instruments were not working properly, he had landed on the surface of Earth. When you didn't reply, I could tell I had landed on Earth. A complete waste of time and effort. So it has delayed him. By mistake, he landed on Earth, and he says it has wasted his time and effort. It happened once before. So he said that he also had visited Earth once before. Instead of going to Mars, I veered off and went to Jupiter. So he says that instead of earlier also he had lost his way and he was supposed to go to Mars, but he went off to Jupiter, and this delayed him by a whole day. Please underline that to be able to travel from one planet to another in a day, that showed that how scientifically advanced these creatures were. It did. Hey, hey, hey. And then he gives out, then it laughs out and says that this had happened earlier also. And he speaks to Bonku Babu as a friend. Bonku Babu did not know what to say. So Bonku Babu was completely confused and he was in a state of trance. He did not know how to respond to all of this. He was feeling quite uncomfortable, for the creature had reached out and was examining Bonku Babu's arms and legs with its long bony fingers. So now this made Bonku Babu a little uneasy, because now the creature had stretched out its hand and was looking at Bonku Babu's arms and legs with its long bony fingers. When it finished, it introduced itself. So when he had finished examining Bonku Babu, the creature introduced itself as Ang. I am Ang from the planet Cranius, a far superior being than man. So now he introduces himself as Ang, and he is from the planet Cranius. And he claims himself to be a far superior being than man. And that's where Bonku Babu meets the mysterious Ang. What is Ang's purpose? And how will this encounter change Bonku Babu's life? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for the next part of this exciting story. See you soon.